Glad to see your splash. It's much better now, much stronger, much cooler animation. I think it looks pretty good. I'm really happy with the motion. I think the motion is solid. Can I show that there is a hole in splash when the water in the background is the same blue as the splash itself? Don't make the splash exactly the same color as the background, and this will help us out, because of course if the splash is exactly the same color as the background, then if that's the only color that you use, then we can't show the hole. There are cheats to it. So for example, we have this color background and we have a splash. Let's say we have a splash that uses foam. What we can do is we can cheat things, and you've seen it in some splashes here already. So here, when we create a hole, we outline the edges of a splash with foam to show that. So you see, solid, we create a hole and it's outlined with the colors of the splash. So we can cheat it like that. We can create holes leaving the foam there, or the foam cap there. Or it can be just a brighter hue of water. So anything to separate it from the background. So that would be the main way to deal with it. And let's say we have this, and I just don't draw the splash color because we assume it's the same as the background. So now if I want to make a hole, I'm like, okay, so how does this work? And I'm going, okay. So now I make a hole and outline the hole with a bit of foam. And now I have a hole. So how does a hole separate from everything else? Well, it will be positioned within a splash rather than on the edges. Like this, and we can use a thinner line, a thinner fill to differentiate it from the outside of a splash. And that's it. Otherwise, we can just do this as well and just use a slightly brighter or a darker hue for the splash itself. And it makes sense realistically, because the splash is not exactly the color of the water. But we can also do things like that and use outlines of a foam to match it to the background and still read the breakup. Now, as for the splash, I think the splash itself looks cool. We can play a bit with the shapes even more. I think the motion is really solid. We can play a bit with the secondary splash, because right now it kind of separates entirely and this feels a bit strange. So it moves well, but it doesn't make much sense why this is tied to the water and the other one is entirely in the air. So it would make more sense if we keep something here and break some stuff up as like particles and foam, and then this expands, falls down into the water, and this goes up and falls a bit later, sort of like the splashes here. So they go up, they break up, they can leave foam in the air, but only really small splashes fully break up at the top and separate into particles. Most medium, big splashes don't entirely vanish in the air. They keep some mass at the bottom, they keep some masses breaking up, and that's about it. Another thing, again, pretty good idea of the space. I think this follows the perspective pretty well. The only thing is that's not consistent. So the perspective of this ellipse is something like this. And this does match the splash, and it does match the perspective of the scene. But it doesn't work later because you change it. So what we can do is we can create a guide, and we need to keep the center the same so it doesn't go invert places. So this is our guide, and all of our ripples will follow the same perspective and all be on this guide. They will not leave this guide. At least in terms of like the ratio. And if we want to create a ripple in a different spot near the splash, it will still have the same guide, just transformed in terms of the size. So it will have guides like this. And what we can see here is that it works at the start, but then the ratio changes. And now we can see that it becomes more wide than it is long. So see, it's as wide as the biggest circle I made, but it's not as... It's as wide, but it's not as long. So the perspective changed. We changed the perspective. And you see here, it goes way too far in the back, whereas it should stay within this. It can go like this, but it will not go that far in the back because that would break the space. It would break the perspective. So you see here, again, the ratio changes. It becomes more wide than it is long compared to how it was before. And it will feel like the angle that we're looking at the splash changed. So I'll keep that. And the same goes for other splashes. They change their perspective. So we need to just use this kind of guides. We can make it and put it anywhere in the scene. I make a guide and then I use this instrument, which is custom brush, copy, and I copy the shape. And then when I copy the shape, it becomes a brush and I can change the size of it. I can make it bigger, I can make it smaller, and I can place it anywhere in the scene. And it's really helpful because it's hard to keep track of perspective. Okay, now that we've dealt with that, we can push the design and think about the coloring. Okay. Again, pretty solid. I really like the first frames. I think they convey the idea really well. They have really nice shapes. Later on, I think this is really good. For the coloring, we can use something like this as a very good reference in terms of color. So we usually need only a few colors, but we can go with more. So minimalistic, or rather limited, depending how you define it, would be to have a slightly different hue for the back layer of the splash, one layer for the front, one layer for the foam, and that's it. More complex would be 2 layers for the water, 1 layer for the foam, 1 layer for the back. And with that, we kind of add texture and additional transparency to the splash. With the foam, we add, well, scale basically. And this adds just separation from front to the background. So I think this is pretty good. We can keep it as is, maybe match the colors better. So usually, you see, this is not a perfect white. So perfect white will always feel a bit strange because that only happens with like actually insanely huge splashes. And it will only match for like specific background colors. So more approach for the cleaning. So I either use, I make the visibility of the layer lower, and either do one or two. I either start doing the clean line or use lasso fill and fill in the shape. So I can do this and start cleaning the shape up. Being like, okay, I need to roughly recreate that, but I'm not trying to repeat every single line. I'm trying to keep that interesting and think about the shapes. That's why I will keep it quite low opacity and focus on my new outlines and creating an interesting varied shape. To make it more interesting as a film, I will make it bright, but not pure white. So it so it melts, combines with the background a bit better. Less saturation, less brightness will make it feel more like it's a part of it rather than it's trying to fight the background. So stretch it out. I follow the surface of the water. I keep in mind what I think works about the splash and refine what is a bit rough. Maybe this is a cool curve. Maybe then we need a particle here, or maybe we just need something to contrast left from right. Maybe we don't need anything. That depends on you and your preferences. So here I'm like, okay, maybe we can change the size a bit so that there is more variation. Okay, no problem, we can do that. Okay, maybe a longer, simpler line here. Maybe it becomes thicker at the bottom, thinner at the top. Okay. Maybe I will leave a particle here or something. Maybe here it's bigger to make them different. Maybe this particle is a bit smaller so it combines well with the scale of the rest of the splash. Maybe here, just keep a clean curve. Maybe we can vary these. So 1, 2, 3, 4. They're a bit similar. Maybe we want to make some bigger, some smaller, so that there is a bigger difference. So maybe this becomes a big gap. This is a really small gap, and this other ones are like medium gaps. Maybe stretching this out in the direction of the motion. And here we have a semi-final design. Then I will separately fill the splash base. And then the back of the splash. Oh, wrong layer. Nice. Maybe I can combine these two into a more solid shape. And maybe I want to recolor it. Maybe it's the same color as this one. Maybe I want to add foam to it. Maybe it's just a different hue of the foam. It can be something like this. And voila. If we want to do something extra fancy, we can do fancy stuff, but we don't need to. Because this will be half transparent, so we will see the background texture through it. And I need to be careful here and draw the backside entirely, keeping my perspective ellipse in mind. This will also add some variety and visual interest. That's also already pretty good. If I want to, I can add another color to the foam, but that's not necessary. It's just an option. So I can do this and pick just a slightly darker and slightly more saturated hue of the same color. So just slightly darker. So it still feels like the same material, foam, but just darker. And do a couple indications of like where the light is going from. And like this is the bottom side and the light is at the top part. This is inside, this is inside. And here we go, we have our splash. Simple and clear. Voila. Trying to find words. Huh? Ah, sorry. Dumb. Be dumb. Okay. Screenshot it. Clear. Then. What can we do? I can do this and keep it. Then we move on to other frames. So have this, have that, have this. And then we go 1. And then here what we can do is we can use all the cool stuff. I think the frames look pretty good. I think the hulls look pretty good. I think here we can push the design. At the very end, it starts kind of breaking up. So here we can push the design a bit. Maybe keep it. Actually, stretch it. Take this and be like, okay. Let's take this key. Take this key, take this key, take this key. And be like, okay, the most important layer is the foam one, because that's what defines our splash. So this is cool. We can keep that. And we can keep this pretty edge that will separate the splash from the water. Since we are matching the color of the water closely, we need this line to separate the splash from it. And we can do this cool stuff. Stretch it out. And here we can make this shape more rounded at the top as it becomes water. so that it has more like droplet kind of tips. Also, this definitely depends on the style, so how sharp is just a style. And I'll add something else, so it's not 1, 2, 3, kind of just this triangle shape. Maybe we can do something else, so it's not all the same shape. So it would be nice to have some variation in the shape. Maybe add in some stuff, kind of combining several shapes at once. So it's not one triangle shape. We can still use the same general shape, but to vary and combine them together into something bigger and more interesting. And maybe we can hold off that so it doesn't go down as fast, but has a bigger delay. Just a bit bigger delay. It's more straightforward at the start. Can add some stuff here, so it's not a perfect circle, but there are some elements that will keep the interest and variety there. Can do this, so stretch it out, or we can keep it connected, that's up to us. Varying the sizes of this would be cool. One is bigger, one is smaller. Which one is up to you? It's just about variety. So I'm basically filling the shape and also refining the design at the same time, usually. And yeah, that's how I get to the final finish. Maybe here this hull can be smaller. It's not at the max yet. Here again, I would try not to put it too low too early. Find a nice curve that is simple enough. Stretch it out. And maybe we don't want to break up both at the same time and kind of open up them at the same level. Maybe some can be opened from the side and filled at the top. This will create a nicer visual look. Okay, what was that? Oh, it was this stretching sheet. And if I want to push it even more, I can vary these gaps. So this scene is right dead center. It can go more to one of the sides. Can decide I want to move it more to the left, keeping the right bigger, or the other way around. This is cool, stretching out. Maybe we can vary these gaps. Make this even smaller for now. Maybe we can make this closer to here. So it keeps this curve. Maybe we don't even need this hole, and this will give us variety. Who knows? Okay, this point here, so it needs to go somewhere over here. And we have this beautiful transition. Then we do the fill again. Use it back again. Can probably expand it more as a base, but it's okay. At this point, we can start adding holes, maybe even in the back. And here I would push the design a bit so that this has some separation. So we can push the differences between these areas. We can leave some particles or something and vary the shapes. So this may be similar to this one and this one. Huh. Oh. Oh. Layers. Yeah. This can be 2. And here it opens up. I think the structure is really, really cool and interesting. So what we need to push mostly is, so this goes down. We break up the particles, change the form a bit. And for example, we're left with something like this. We expand the base. Maybe we can expand it more on this frame. So it's not too sudden, but even that works. If we add the mask here, then we need to change this up a bit. Maybe goes here. The other part breaks up or breaks off, flies into the air. And we follow the form, which will be something like this. So we need to show that form through our lines. Maybe we can delay this more if we want to. Same as here. Then we have this, and we move this a bit to the left so we can continue that. Just moving towards us basically. The top can go up while the bottom starts slowly going down to show that it's collapsing. And now this part. Seeing the shape is cool. We need to leave some indication of the structure, so we still read the silhouette. So the silhouette the silver. Still need to read some of its through the particles. Just a bit. And we have this beautiful shape that you've done. On the right, we can continue through something else. Maybe erase it more, keep some foam here. And then I think we can vary the back side more. So this is like this. And on the back side, we'll try to overlap it more so I can feel the volume. So maybe we see more of the back here. And back side here. And here we see a bit more, which allows us to see the volume when it kind of breaks up. Kind of opens up and shows, oh yeah, there was a back side as well. Since it's not visible like 90% of the time, we don't have to track it that much. Save us so much time. And now we have something like this. And we can probably reduce the delay on the middle part even more. So it can start falling a bit here. Maybe we can reduce. So some parts are falling already, while others not so much. Yeah, this will vary the delay on the site. Now here. So we go down. And we want to keep something. So we want to keep some indication of the volume, so it doesn't fall and just become a ripple. It has some volume and it becomes a ripple. So see the foam here. So basically this. Or this. Or this kind of polymers. So I want to have that so we still read the volume even at that point. I lost it. I lost the splash. Oh, I found it. So this falls down here, cleaves this. And the volume is contained not only in the center, no, the volume is all of this. This is our line of the splash that it will create. And we need to use our guide that we had here to see where it will form. It can form not a perfect circle, it can form a circle like this, but it will still follow roughly the same formula, roughly the same guide. So this goes and falls here. And it was going here to the side, so maybe it falls over here somewhere. I'll reduce the delay just a bit more. And it opens up. And it should open out like this kind of splash. So it goes from closed to open. And I can break some stuff up in the foam. So I don't have to connect everything. I can change the shapes a bit. Positionally. So we'll add interest so that the ratios don't stay the same. What am I saying? I want to change the ratios of the shapes so it doesn't keep the same big, medium, small all the time, but rather something that was big becomes smaller, something that was small becomes falls down, combines with other shapes and becomes a big shape. So things like that. So I want to change the structure a bit. This shape goes here, falls down. And so it opens up. So the splash goes 1, 2, 3. Doesn't go inside, it will go out. Follows these lines outwards from the center. And now this line's pointing towards us even more. Can delay one side more than the other, the way as you did here. And where it fell down, I can create foam or some separation from the water. And then ripples. Since that there is a backside as well, I can create form in a circle. Along our perspective that we established with these lines. And here we want something, some interesting droplets, maybe something else, some broken off particles, maybe some bumps on the surface. Still create an interesting composition. Don't forget, it was here, it falls down here, and some parts go in further. So for example, this stuff can fall off over here. Creates the ripples on the surface. The foam. We can track the particles. The big ones, mostly. It follows this curve. Now, as usual, just fill in the middle part. And then the backside will disappear faster, but we need some particles that we leave, some areas that we leave. Showing that perspective here, maybe there are particles and foam left over. Some bumps like this. Yeah, now it recedes in space. Maybe some left here. And then we have our dissipation. And that's what we've got here. And I'll need one more key for the dissipation. So how does the ball go down? Oh, ball, splash, go down. What's left there? So if we want, we can leave our ripples. Again, remember that we need to give them the same perspective. And for this, we can leave mostly the foam. We need to track it. Now I need the spacing. So it goes down to the side. This will be left. Some particles here and there. It should be a bit more further out here. Maybe there is something over here. Some leftover. On this side we have this shape. Maybe we can leave some more particles, more volume. Still going on a curve like that. So whoop, whoop. Here we can just leave some foam. Maybe it's not a perfect circle. Maybe it has more variation. Goes a bit further. Goes a bit less to the camera. And in the back, only the solid color. So this goes further towards, away here. Maybe changes the shape a bit so it's not static and becomes something like this. This goes perspective, becomes something like this. This leaves a bigger shape. Can change in the form a bit so it's not too similar. Even some particles. This goes further. Maybe it's just particle or two. This goes further and just gives us something. Just something to work from. And that's it. And for the ripples, we can do a separate layer. It only draws the ripples. For the secondary splash, we can do so the timing and spacing of it is cool. It's just that it doesn't mesh well and combine well with the already existing type of splash that we have in the front. So it might be a good idea to do something a bit different, maybe something similar to the secondary splash here, this small one, or this bigger one. Don't. So some things break up, but the mass goes down, or something like this, or something like that. So it breaks up a bit, but it doesn't break up entirely, or something like this. When it breaks up, but we still leave the mass here, and erase the particles, make them smaller. This is also fine. My voice is dying for no reason. Okay, it's here. We can start creating a secondary splash. Here we can start pushing it up. I can do some cool, fun particles and droplets and some interesting shapes to match the scale, and then it goes up to the side. And I need to have the base, because what it is a pocket of air rising to the surface. So it goes one. No, I mean it goes one. We have a splash. The object is here. Two, the object is at the bottom and it drags air with it. The splash increases in size, reaches its maximum position. Three, the object is underwater. It dragged air pocket under the water and the splash starts falling down. 4, the object has fallen, the air starts rising up and creates this pocket of air that's rising, and it starts pushing back. So this already falls down. And now this pocket of air reaches the surface. The splash falling down. Pocket of air reaches the surface, and we create a secondary splash. This is what happens. So therefore, we need to connect it to the surface somehow, at least in first frames. We can break it up later, but not at the very start. same perspective. So I need to keep the base moving and expanding as well. Or it can expand, slow down, and contract back because it's getting like thinned out. Okay, this is too much slow down. Stretch it, break it up. A bit similar and symmetrical. And then it gets kind of stretched thing at the top, while the base is still expanding. and then it falls down, or breaks up even more and falls down while changing the shape. Can the base at least something, either the ripple or this will kind of expand and move, while this thing, the central thing, can become smaller and thinner, losing the volume as it breaks up into the particles. This starts falling down, at least some particles. With a delay, of course. Well, some still travel up. Then it falls and becomes just foam or ripples on the surface. So the logic is something like this. So then we track the particles, and we worry about the design and timing more than anything else. That's it. Hope that helps, and wish you good luck with your animations.